A noticeable political divergence has emerged within Silicon Valley. Specific high-profile technology sector leaders, including figures such as Elon Musk, David Sacks, Mark Andreessen, Mark Zuckerberg, and Sundar Pichai, have demonstrated alignment with or offered support to Donald Trump through actions like fundraising, accepting administration roles, or attending official events like the January inauguration. This represents a distinct shift from the period around 2017, when unified opposition to certain Trump administration policies, such as immigration restrictions, saw tech executives like Google's co-founder and CEO participating alongside employees in public demonstrations. Recent events underscore this change. A protest in downtown San Jose on April 5th targeted not only Trump, but also aligned tech leaders like Musk. Participants, often requesting anonymity due to reported fears, expressed sentiments of disillusionment and betrayal. Notably absent was the executive participation seen in the earlier protests. This contrast highlights a growing gap between the political positioning of certain influential tech executives and segments of their workforce. While Santa Clara County, the heart of Silicon Valley, remains predominantly Democratic based on voting patterns, 68% for Harris versus 28% for Trump in the last election, the visible realignment of these specific industry figures creates a complex internal dynamic. This situation warrants closer examination of the factors contributing to this divide and its potential operational consequences for the industry. This political realignment among certain prominent tech figures appears driven by a confluence of factors. Direct involvement in administration policy, such as Musk's role focused on federal agency reduction or Sacks' appointment related to AI and cryptocurrency, demonstrates a tangible engagement with political power structures. Financial contributions and public gestures, like Zuckerberg's inauguration funding and co-hosting activities following explicit political pressure regarding 2020 election funding, indicate responsiveness to direct political influence or incentive. This pattern contrasts sharply with the industry leadership's posture during Trump's first term, which was often characterized as a center of resistance, particularly on issues like immigration critical to its global workforce. The consequence of this executive shift is palpable among of the tech workforce. Reports indicate feelings of nervousness and disillusionment, a sense articulated by observers noting a perceived cultural drift from idealistic beginnings toward more aggressive, profit-centric models. The fear expressed by workers, evidenced by requests for anonymity and concerns over surveillance like facial recognition during protests, points to a breakdown of the perceived solidarity that existed during earlier demonstrations where executive participation was visible. This sentiment is further compounded by a sense of betrayal, as articulated by employees who feel the alignment of some leaders with Trump contradicts previously held industry values or expectations. The backdrop for this political fracturing is an industry undergoing significant transformation. The evolution from aspirational startups aiming to change the world, symbolized by mottos like Google's narrow-moved, "Don't be evil," to mature multinational corporations focused on market dominance and profitability, is well documented. Recent large-scale layoffs have further disrupted the narrative of perpetual growth and security that once defined tech employment. Moreover, the ambition for startups has observably shifted for many, from disruptive innovation to achieving profitable acquisition by larger entities. These internal industry changes, coupled with pre-existing concerns among some workers regarding wealth inequality within the valley and the environmental footprint of technologies like AI and crypto data centers, create fertile ground for the current political discontent. The alignment of powerful tech figures with Trump adds another layer to these existing anxieties, manifesting in protests where chants against oligarchs directly link national political trends with the actions of specific industry leaders. Despite the significant attention garnered by this handful of influential executives aligning with Trump, it is crucial to place this development within the broader political landscape of Silicon Valley. Local political observers and data confirm that this executive shift does not reflect a widespread political conversion across the tech sector or the region itself. Santa Clara County's voting patterns, even with a slight shift mirroring statewide trends, demonstrate an enduring Democratic majority, with the party securing 68% of the vote compared to 28% for Trump in the last presidential election. The assessment from the local Republican Party leadership reinforces this reality, acknowledging minimal inroads within the tech industry specifically, characterizing the area as fundamentally unchanged politically, still the belly of the beast from their perspective. This persistent political alignment exists alongside Silicon Valley's historically complex ideological mix, which includes elements of libertarianism, civic activism, and a strong belief in technological solutions, often layered onto a predominantly democratic base. Therefore, the current divergence appears less as a fundamental political transformation of the entire region, and more as a specific, high-profile phenomenon concentrated among a select group of powerful individuals, creating friction against the prevailing political orientation of the workforce and the surrounding community. This divergence between certain leaders and the workforce manifests significantly within the internal dynamics of tech companies. The reported atmosphere of fear, leading employees to seek anonymity or worry about surveillance during protests, suggests a deterioration of the open, collaborative environment often associated with the sector's earlier phases. This contrasts markedly with the 2017 demonstrations, where executive presence seemingly offered a degree of protection or shared purpose. The absence of such leadership visibility in recent protests, coupled with the explicit political alignments of figures like Musk and Zuckerberg, contributes to the articulated feelings of broken trust among employees like Kamal Ali, who works in AI. This erosion of trust appears intertwined with the broader cultural shifts observed over the past decades. The transition from idealistic, mission-driven startup cultures, exemplified by Google's original motto, towards the priorities of large, mature corporations focused on profitability and market expansion, creates a different context for political expression and internal cohesion. When employees perceive leaders prioritizing political alliances or personal ideologies that conflict with the prevailing workforce sentiment or historical company values, it can exacerbate existing disillusionment stemming from industry maturation, layoffs, or concerns about inequality and environmental impact. The sentiment that things may be different forever reflects a recognition that this political divide, layered onto fundamental industry changes, potentially alters the core relationship between employees, leadership, and the companies themselves within Silicon Valley. Beyond the internal corporate environment, this widening political gap carries significant potential consequences for the tech industry's external operations and standing. One clear area of impact relates to human capital. Companies led by executives perceived as strongly aligned with polarizing political figures may encounter difficulties in attracting and retaining talent, particularly among a workforce that largely holds contrasting political or social values. The ability to recruit globally, historically a strength leveraged during periods of resistance to policies like immigration restrictions, could be complicated if potential employees view company leadership as antithetical to their principles. Furthermore, the cohesiveness of the tech sector's political voice appears diminished. Historically, Silicon Valley presented a more unified front on certain policy issues, enhancing its lobbying effectiveness. The current fragmentation, with prominent leaders diverging politically from the workforce and potentially from each other on various matters, could weaken the industry's collective influence in Washington, D.C. and state capitals. A less coherent message makes achieving shared policy goals more challenging. This internal division also risks reshaping the public image of Silicon Valley. Once predominantly viewed as a hub of innovation and forward-thinking, albeit with growing criticisms, the region and its major players increasingly face perceptions linked to concentrated wealth, political polarization, and the oligarchic tendencies warned against by political figures like President Biden and echoed in protest chants. This shift can affect brand reputation not just for individual companies, but for the sector as a whole. Finally, these dynamics intersect directly with the regulatory landscape. The close alignment of powerful tech billionaires with specific political administrations could pave the way for regulatory frameworks favorable to their interests, or conversely, provoke intensified scrutiny and potential regulatory action from opposing political forces wary of unchecked corporate power and influence. The outcome remains uncertain, but the heightened political engagement of these leaders inevitably draws greater attention to the industry's intersection with governmental power. The current situation reveals a Silicon Valley grappling with a significant internal fracture. A visible cohort of high-profile executives has adopted political stances markedly different from both the broader workforce sentiment and the region's historical political leanings. This divergence is not merely superficial. It generates tangible operational friction within technology firms, impacting trust and workplace culture, as evidenced by employee reactions and the altered nature of recent protests compared to those in 2017. Simultaneously, this dynamic recalibrates the industry's external posture. Challenges potentially arise in talent acquisition. The coherence of political advocacy is potentially fragmented. Public perception shifts towards concerns over concentrated power and political entanglement, and the relationship with regulatory bodies becomes increasingly complex. These developments unfold against the backdrop of an industry undergoing fundamental shifts related to maturation, scale, and its evolving sense of purpose, marking a distinct phase in Silicon Valley's ongoing evolution. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis, and be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more geopolitical insights like this. I love hearing your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. Share this video with anyone interested in deeper perspectives on current events. Until next time, stay informed and think critically. Thank you.